If I told you that in Victorian schools they're teaching young children as young as 4 basic mathematics, like addition and subtraction, do you think any parent would be upset by that? I can nigh on guarantee no parent would be upset with their children learning maths. At worst, they'd be indifferent towards it. But what if I told you that Victorian schools were teaching children as young as 4 that sometimes children are born with body parts that don't match their gender identity? Do you think any parent would be upset by that? Of course some would be. Actually, whether you agree with schools teaching this or not, one thing that we can all agree on is that at the very least, this is controversial. There's no denying that. That is, it's not universally accepted that teaching young children about gender identity and expression is appropriate, unlike mathematics. This gender diversity curriculum is part of the Victorian Government's Respectful Relationships program. I'll be going into the details and evidence of that soon. When pressed about the program at a press conference, Premier Jacinta Allen said, "I have seen firsthand how important the Respectful Relationships program is because it's in my kids' school, and so yes, I back the Respectful Relationships program and the curriculum. That is all about protecting kids, strengthening resilience of kids, and supporting kids to be who they are across our schools, to help other kids understand why respecting difference is so important." When asked about recent reports critical of the program, she appeared to get angry, saying, "It's disgraceful nonsense. This sort of ongoing attack on a program that is making a difference in kids' lives just should be stopped. It's disgraceful reporting. It's hurtful. When you consider the incidents that transgender kids are 15 times more likely to kill themselves, we should be supporting them." Anyway, let's go directly to the source. I don't want to assume anything. On the government's Respectful Relationship page, they address some myths and facts. Myth: respectful relationships teaches radical gender theory. Fact: respectful relationships does not teach radical gender theory. It is a primary prevention initiative to reduce family violence. So the purpose of the program is to reduce family violence. Keep that in mind when we look at the actual curriculum. They also address the myth that resources are seeking to make children gay, non-binary or trans. Fact: this is not true. Long-standing evidence is clear that children develop their understanding of gender from a young age, and that by the age of 4 they largely adhere to gender norms. It should be noted that in Victoria, the first year of school is officially called Foundation, what we would normally call prep in Queensland. Children can actually start school at age 4 in January, as long as they are turning 5 by 30th of April of that year. Back to the Respectful Relationships page. To find the resources, you need to scroll down to the For Educators section and click on Teach Respectful Relationships. You'll then be taken to the ARC website, where you should scroll down to Teaching and Learning Materials. While we're here, it should be noted that experts from Deakin University and the University of Melbourne developed these resources. So never fear, these were designed by experts. Clicking on Main Resources will take us to our final destination. If you scroll down, you'll see a whole bunch of learning materials up to Year 12. We're interested in the Foundation materials, where you can download the PDF. Remembering these materials are targeting children who are potentially 4 years old, so just keep that in mind. The first thing I noticed in the acknowledgement section, all the authors are female, or at least they have female names: Helen, Ruth, Anne, Kylie, Sally, Roz, Jessica, and so on. One would think that males have no idea about respectful relationships, or am I just being cynical? I'll just randomly read out some sections so that you can judge for yourself about the content. Topic 8, Activity 4 is interesting. What are clothes for? I don't know, keeping yourself warm, stopping yourself from getting sunburnt? No, don't be stupid. Coaching point, talking about body parts and privacy. At the front, male and female bodies look a bit different. Males have a penis, females have a vulva. Some people have a mix of some body parts because they have been born as intersex. How often does that occur? Who decided that intersex is so prevalent and important that we have to urgently discuss it with 4-year-olds at school? On the chest, people have nipples. As females grow older, they grow breasts where the nipples are. Topic 1, Activity 6. It feels good when people like us just the way we are. Explain to students, some people are born with boy body parts, some people are born with girl body parts, and some people have differences in these body parts. This is called being intersex. There's that word again. Some people feel it is just right for them to be called a boy, and that this matches with their boy body parts. Some people feel it is just right for them to be called a girl, and that this matches with their girl body parts. Some people feel they did not get a good match for their body parts, and they do not want to be called a boy or a girl, but rather something that is right for them. Other people feel that the label boy or girl is not the right label for them, and they want to tell us the right word and name to use for them. Sometimes people use the words transgender, gender diverse, and non-binary. They also explain to the 4-year-old students how to introduce themselves. For example, "Hello, I am Name, and I like to be called she. What is your name, and what do you like to be called?" We can be friends with anyone. It does not depend on whether they are a boy, a girl, or gender diverse. Topic 7, Activity 3. Anyone can choose. Students will talk about what to do if someone tells them that they can't do something because of their gender. Can you guess where this is going? Scenario 3. Stacy is a transgender girl. She dresses like the other girls, plays with them, and everything seems fine. But one day, Lara says Stacy should be in the boys' team at sports, not the girls' team. Ask, is it true that Stacy would not be allowed to be in the girls' team with the other girls? What could Stacy do or say? Yes, they're teaching 4-year-olds that it's okay for biological boys to play in the girls' team as long as they identify as a girl. Does the same apply to the girls' toilets? Topic 8, Activity 3. Witnessing school-related gender-based violence. Remembering this is for 4 and 5-year-olds. They mention violence against women, but surprisingly, they don't mention violence against men. Apparently, men in Australia don't experience violence. They note, the kind of bullying that students experience at school is often gendered in nature. Is it? The bullying I most often hear about is boys bullying boys and girls bullying girls. What are they talking about? They give the scenario of new student Sue Lee. On her first day of school, Sue Lee went straight to the sandpit at lunchtime. 3 boys who were playing there became mean. Josh said, "Hey, this sandpit is only for boys." Sue Lee said, "No, everyone can play in the sandpit." Lucas stood on her sandcastle and smashed it down. Typical 4-year-old male aggression resulting in gender-based violence in the schoolyard. And just one more example, teachers are asked to avoid using gendered language and instead use inclusive language. For example, they should refer to siblings rather than brothers and sisters, and students rather than boys and girls. Furthermore, teachers should introduce their pronouns and check which pronouns students use for themselves. They also note that a 4-year-old student might identify as gender fluid, trans-masculine, trans-feminine, or could be agender. Yes, I know lots of 4 and 5-year-old trans-masculine kids. Child psychiatrist Gillian Spencer, who was stood down from her role at the Queensland Children's Hospital in 2023 after raising clinically grounded objections to gender affirmation in children, warned that these interventions carry risks. She said, "Because of the harms of medical interventions like infertility, lack of sexual function, physical health problems, and the risk of regret, we need to do what we can to assist children to feel comfortable in their body. I think it's wrong to introduce the notion of being transgender early. It just introduces confusion." Yes, her radical idea of helping kids feel comfortable in their own bodies was considered too dangerous for the medical community to tolerate. Anyway, you get the idea of what they're teaching young children in Victorian schools, government endorsed. The only problem is, when journalists try to question this, which of course is what a good journalist should do, Premier Allen gets angry and writes you off as having some kind of fringe opinion. That's not good for democracy, and that's certainly not good for children.